Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Facebook. This is Tyra, and I am coming to you from the Southwest Grief Corner. And this is Southwest Funeral Home Funeral and Cremation. We are located at 7901 South Kaminsky Avenue. Again, 7901 South Kaminsky Avenue, which is one block west of Pulaski. And our phone number here is 773-424-3151. Again, our phone number here is 773-424-3151. Our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. Again, our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. And I am coming to you all today from the Southwest Grief Corner yet again, to see how you all are doing and just talk to you all for a few minutes. We last talked in the end of September, and we did a Zoom session for the Grief Corner. If there are any of you that are interested in getting that recording, please feel free to reach out and I will provide that to you. But I do believe that it is possibly uploaded on our website at this point so you can view. But that Grief Corner was to help our children. That Grief Corner was to assist our children not only in the mindset of helping them to deal with grief, but it was also set up so that we could talk about how to assist children, being that they are inside and not in their schools but doing virtual schooling, and how to help them succeed when in fact they possibly are grieving and now they don't have their classmates in their normal environment. So we had that grief support, or that Grief Corner, with Dr. Don Parker. And so please feel free to share that. Again, you can reach out to me and I can provide you the information, but you can also go to our website. I do believe they have it uploaded now. And you can also go to our YouTube channel where the videos are available. Today, though, I just, I wanted to see how my adults are doing. If there are children who, are teenage children old enough to be cognitive of this video, then that is great, because I am here for everyone. We are here Southwest. Me, Tyra, personally, am here talking to you guys at regular intervals to check and see how my people that are grieving are doing. We know that grief is very hard. We know that loss is very hard. We know that we are repeatedly told that we're living in unprecedented times, and we are able to take that into account ourselves. And so people are still losing jobs. As a result of quarantining and COVID, people have had an increase in domestic abuse in relationships. There has been an increase of child abuse in the homes, because people are frustrated as well as a result of some of those things, and sometimes disconnected totally from that. Another problem that we are seeing, and that is an issue, of course, is that people are divorcing and separating, and also a big one is that people are still losing jobs. We have been now in this pandemic for pretty much all of the year, and initially the layoffs that came with quarantine and COVID, of course, was huge concern, but there was hope that, once we got to this point of the year, people would be back to work, that, things would be restored. And we just found out as the year continued to go on that is not the case. And so people are strained. People are trying to figure out what to do. I was watching a story in the news last night of a young girl who has 3 children, and she is down to her last $45. And so all of that brings on stress and grief. And then we have the flip side of that, that brings on grief, which we know to be common because, of course, we are a funeral home, which is that we are also experiencing loss in death. And so I'm just here to, again, help those who are dealing with grief and those things that are burdening the heart to adjusting to life as it is new. And so today I just want to check on my adults and see how you guys are doing. Check on those who are trying to help people who are going through grief and looking for additional support and resource. So it is a pleasure to be here with you all today. I do hope that you all are coming along in your grief journey. One of the things that we know from many videos talking to you guys is that grief has its own journey with you, and you have your own journey with grief. And so with that being said, as you're journeying through the grief, then we have to remember that grief has no rules. And so since grief has no rules, we don't know how long I may grieve, and I do not know what that grief process is going to look like for me, because the other side of grief is that it has no rules and it's individual. So the way that I go through it is different from the way the next person may go through it. And so I continue to urge you guys to deal with what you are dealing with as far as your feelings in the way that best suits you. And so today's conversation is not going to be any different, which is that I'm going to encourage you, and I am encouraging you to keep doing the things that are giving you some relief, to keep doing the things that are making you feel better, to keep doing the things that are helping you to adjust to life now, as a result of the loss of whomever you may be trying to adjust to life without. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today, not only is it adjusting to life anew, we have to remember that when we go through grief, whatever type it may be or whatever may have caused it or onset it, that grief changes us. Loss changes us. And so another reason why it makes it hard to understand, even if we're all related and we lost a family member, is that it depends on the relationship. So if this was my husband, even though that was your brother, we both are affected by this loss, but it's going to affect us differently because I lived in the house with him. I slept in the bed with this person, whereas you guys maybe shared a room coming up through the years. And then eventually you all as brothers are now best friends, but you still live in two households. The brother is going to miss his brother. The wife is going to miss her husband, but based off the nature of the closeness, if you will, of the relationship, is then going to affect how you're dealing with moving through the grief and trying to adjust to a new life without this person. And because this person was so close to me, then I can't just flip a switch and all of a sudden be okay. And one of the things that I wanted to mention to you then, as you are going through your grief journey now, even though there may be a time where then you can adjust and you are starting to adjust, sometimes people are trying to figure out if they're moving too fast. When I started talking to you all just a few moments ago, I said you have to do what makes you feel better. If it makes you feel better to move to a new city, or if you're considering moving to a new city, you should absolutely do that. Don't make, though, permanent decisions on temporary emotions. If you're considering maybe switching jobs because it's going to be a better situation for you, then do that. If you're considering maybe going into a new relationship, then do that. But the only thing when we talk about the grief journey and grief not having any rules and moving too fast or moving too slow, no one can tell you too fast or too slow if in fact the journey is my own. But don't do anything. They recommend that you don't do or make any major decisions before 6 months. So give yourself, if you're journeying right now, dealing with loss and trying to balance the scales on whether or not it's a good enough time or whether you're moving in a timely fashion, make sure that within that 6-month window that you try to give yourself just time to adjust. I talked to you guys when I first started this back in May, the Grief Corner, about the 5 stages of grief. And those are things that you will experience not in any particular order that it's given, and you can bounce back and forth. But the 5 stages of grief kind of laid out what happens initially when you suffer a loss. And so as you look at the 5 stages of grief, if you're going through them at a normal time frame, it probably would take about 6 months. So when you lose or you're experiencing a new loss, give yourself time to deal with the emotions, to the lack of presence, to the adjustments that have to be made, because now this person is gone, especially if that was your husband, because you got, or your wife, or your child, if it's someone you lived in the same house with, it can be a battle, because on one end you don't want to be in that house anymore because they're not there, but then on the other end, it just feels too painful to leave, to stay, so you need to go. Whichever way it is, give yourself time to deal with it. Now, some people may, and I know some people have, especially if there was a crime, a murder in the home, or if the deceased died in that home and they did live there together, then some people do feel like, I got to get out of here. And you may have to, especially if it's a crime scene, something like that, you do have to be agile. And at that moment, you have to make a real major adjustment and find a new dwelling place, or step away from your dwelling place. In a situation like that, I totally understand, and of course it just makes sense, that's what it is. But if you can bear with the things that come with making such a move, then give yourself time to do that. And you don't want to find out that you get rid of the house or sell the house, or, move out of the house, and now a year from now, because of the memories that you had there, you wishing that you maybe had stayed. So give yourself 6 months to deal with adjusting to life without. Also, one of the things that you have to remember as you move through grief, because sometimes people don't realize that you can move through the grief period. And as you move through the grief period, understand that you don't, just because you come to the end of it or you start to feel better, not to beat yourself up about that, because you can still remember that person. Sometimes people believe that as they come to an end of a grief period, or they start to make transitions, that with the guilt of letting go, that they'll forget the loved one, and or people will presume that you are forgetting the legacy, or forgetting the relationship, forgetting that was your husband, forgetting that was your only brother, when in fact that's not true. You're just having memory now, because you should always remember that person. You should always celebrate their life, however you come up with to do that, whatever makes you feel better to celebrate their life. You should always celebrate the life, remember that life. But you know that you're at the end of grieving when you can remember that life without pain. The grief component is, again, no matter the type of loss that it is, the grief component is marked by the fact that you have memory and pain there. So when we're looking at how we're trying to adjust and how to deal with the life now that we have to continue to live, that now we understand that loss has changed us. We're not the same, that I can still move forward. I can still come to a place of learning to adjust. And once I do come to a place and I've learned to adjust, so I'm learning to adjust, that I'm letting the pain is not there, but I can still remember the person. So just understand that you should continue to remember those that you love. You should continue to celebrate the life of those that you love. Do whatever makes you feel great about how you do that, and then give yourself a break by understanding that you will come to the grief period when you can have these memories without actually breaking down, and you can have these memories without having pain associated with it, but nothing to do with letting go of your loved one. As you consider also ways that, because now we're coming up on death anniversaries. What are death anniversaries? Exactly what they sound like. People are now coming up on the first anniversary of when they lost their loved one. I know today there is someone that I came in contact with, and this is the first anniversary of her father's death. And so today is a very sad day for her, and it may be that next month is going to be the first time that you are coming on that first anniversary of the loss of your loved one, and you are still adjusting. And that's exactly right. It may seem like, because it's been 6 months, it's been 7 months to other people who may have just been there to support you. Then 6-7 months seems like, probably by now she's doing okay, or he's doing okay. By now he or she is probably doing better, when in fact I'm probably worse off now than I was 6 or 7 months ago when the loss initially happened, because I did live in the same house with this person, and now all of these nights and all of these days go by and the phones stop ringing as much, people stop visiting as much, and you are there left to deal with how you're feeling. And so 6-7 months may seem like a long time to everybody else, even a year or 2 or 3, because now we're talking about death anniversaries. It may seem like it's been a while, but in fact for you it's still fresh because of the closeness of the relationship. Then you have to be okay with trying to figure out what's going to be the best way. There's a story of a man who, his wife had a tomato garden, and so the way that he relieved himself and continued to make his adjustment and feel better was to harvest her tomato garden every year and then give the tomatoes to his neighbors. And then when he did that, of course, that gave a moment for them to remember his wife with him and share stories and talk about his wife. Really great idea. So if you have a loved one that had, things that they love or a passion to, then you can attach to that, and that you can probably find is super satisfying, but yet you're moving on and you feel better and you're remembering them without pain, and you're able to smile about the life that they live. There's another account of a teacher, and losing her husband, she stated that she started a scholarship fund. So as an educator, then she started a scholarship fund. Another amazing idea, another amazing way to keep the memory alive. And so doing so and remembering them without pain, being relieved from the grief, learning to adjust to the environment, and learning that it's okay to give yourself a break, because we understand that we are not going to be the same person after the loss as we were when the loss occurred, especially if they were close to us. Another thing with that, then, you want to explore your feelings on that. As you explore your feelings on that means allow yourself to feel. So at times like now, as we're experiencing death anniversaries, and you're maybe going through a first year without your loved one, or you're getting ready to go into the first holiday. We know Thanksgiving is upon us. We know that Christmas is upon us. We know that people have suffered loss in jobs, though. We know that people have suffered loss in relationships, marriages, homes have broken. But yet we're also moving into a time of the year that's already hard for some people, because this won't be their first death anniversary, and it won't be their first holiday without their loved one, but it's still very hard. And then now we're going into this season with COVID. It is, and you are definitely within your right if you feel like it's stressful and you're starting to feel the anxiety of that, and the what you can't do or what it's not going to look like, the concern for your health, the concern for your family, the concern for your finances. All of these things are valid things to feel anxious about, but explore those feelings. And so if you're having all those feelings, plus you're dealing with coming into the first year without a loved one, then what we want you guys to do is to remember to explore those feelings. It might be a thing of loneliness, and sometimes when we think about that, it's the fact that maybe I'm not lonely, but I just miss the presence of that person who was so close to me. And so as you explore those feelings of loneliness, maybe something to ask would be, when do I feel my most lonely? And there was another story of a lady who identified that she normally felt her most lonely when at dinner time, because it was her husband. So of course they shared many meals, they broke bread together daily, and she realized that she missed his presence. In this case, translation, felt lonely when dinner time would come. So in order to deal with that, then she started having dinner with family or friends or whomever, inviting people to have dinner with her. So that helped soothe that ache, and very therapeutic in that way, because we do expect support from our family and our friends. I tell you guys that I'm here as a support system to you all that need it. You can always pick up the phone and call me. But as a respect of having family and friends, that actually is going to be your first support system. So if my family and my friends are there to do the job of helping me through my grief journey, and I get through it, then that's wonderful. But sometimes what we find is that with our friends, either we have listeners and we have doers. So in the case of that, then my listeners, they're willing to bend the ear, they're willing to hear you, and you can lay your shoulder on them if you feel like it, if you even feel like talking. But you have your friends who are able to listen, or family who are able to listen. And then you have your doers, which are people maybe that are just offering to do a favor, and offering to physically make things happen to make your life easier. But whether you have listener or doer, most times you don't have both in the same person. And again, like I was mentioning, 6-7 months or a year or 2 or 3 may go by, and they think that you're doing better when in fact you're not. So when we're looking at whether or not I have a listener or doer, I have friends, I have family or support system, or whether I don't, then I want to explore these feelings. I want to realize that I'm not in the same place that I was before. I want to celebrate the loved one's life, how best suits me in a healthy way. And then approaching these death anniversaries and going to the holiday season, understanding that probably as I explore my feelings, then I have to decide what I want to take into the future with me and what I may want to leave behind. Because we are not the same when loss occurs, then some of the things, like if that was my husband, maybe he was also the accountant, maybe he was the gardener, he was the mechanic, he was Mr. All in all. So not only did I lose my husband, I lost a person who was a source of a lot of other things in my life that needed to be done at a time. So you're dealing with multiple layers of loss in one individual possibly, but then sometimes it could be totally opposite. It could have been all bad. So you have to, as you explore your feelings, decide what you want to take into your future and into your life, and what things you may want to leave behind, what that's going to look like for you. Like I said, it may be you moving into a new place. It might be moving to a new city altogether. It might be taking up a new job, a new skill. With COVID and everything coming in, this is going to be a really different kind of winter. And then, of course, there's the election. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And that also, too, affects our world. But as we're thinking about these things and trying to figure out what's going to be best for us, we have to decide what we want to take with us forward and what we want to leave behind. So if there were things maybe in that relationship that actually were not good for you, then I think that it would be a great time to consider what you don't want to continue to take into your new life. And you have every right to let that go at this point. And then for all those things that were good and beneficial, take that forward. And if in that it just requires you developing a whole new skill altogether in order to be able to move into a new and productive life, that's okay. Applaud yourself for it, and don't feel bad or beat yourself up about the fact that life is now looking different for you. Okay. Also, I think that's it. I think that's all we're going to be doing for today. The big question and the big thought that I really do want to leave with you guys, though, is what do you want to take and what do you want to leave behind? Look into additional ways of supporting and celebrating your loved ones going into the holidays, into the death anniversaries. Allow yourself to explore your feelings, but we know that this is going to be a very different kind of winter, so you don't have a lot of physical support groups. Of course, Mayor Lightfoot and the governor actually here as well, as of yesterday, are enforcing and placing mandates for taking the numbers back down. So curfews, people shed a tear in a beer, they're closing the bars, things like that. So, you know, there sometimes not going to be as many places to go. I wanted to recommend 2 books for you guys. So as you all are trying to, again, figure out how you continue to move forward, how you adjust to the fact that you are no longer the same as you were before the loss, as you consider what you're going to take and what you're going to leave. I want to give you 2 books because we don't have so many support groups being able to meet, but we can always read. The first book is called Widow, and it's by Lynn Caines, Lyenne Caines, Caines, Lynn Caines. It's called Widow, and that is a first-person account of loss. So a personal perspective that may come right down some lanes, because of course widows, women and men. So that may be what you need, or maybe what someone you know needs. So you can maybe get it for them. If you want, take a look at it for yourself first. That way you know what you're giving them. Also, another book that I wanted to recommend to you guys is Teresa A. Rando. That is Rando. Teresa Rando. First name is T.H. For that Teresa, and her book is called Grieving, and that particular book is a book full of psychologists and counselors advice, you know, so that can be very good. And I think across the board, again, if you're dealing with any type of loss, especially of course in death, you know, you can take and pick out of those recommendations what's going to work for you, or what you think will be helpful to you, because your journey is your own and grief does not have any rules. You guys, please feel free to visit our website, www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. Again, that is funerallandcremation.com. On there, under our grief support tab, you will find information, resources for other people besides myself that can help you. If you do feel like you need to talk to someone, there are a lot of counselors and a lot of therapists who are doing just like this, online sessions. They some of them take insurance, some of them work fee for service, and I know there's one on there. The counseling sessions are anywhere from $30 to $80. $30 to $80, that is inexpensive. For someone that could be expensive, but a $30 session, of course, is less than an $80 session. And we know, as even on the debate, they were talking about health insurance. We know a lot of people don't have health insurance. That is just a fact. It's always been that way. I've been in healthcare before death care, 23 years. So it's always been an issue with health insurance. If you do not have health insurance, you know, and you do feel like you need to talk to someone, then a $30 session is not that bad. Also, we have therapists on there that deal with children. If you have children who are grieving and you're looking for maybe a resource or a help that specifically focuses on children and teens grieving, then those resources are there. And we have Salvation Army resources. If you need legal referral, we have our actual attorney who helps our families if there are issues, family matters that need to be dealt with. If you have matters of getting your wills together, because you should get your wills together, power of attorneys, those things, those resources are there for you. If you need to move things out of a house, if it is a year now or 2 years or 3 years now and you need to move some things out of the house, you want to donate them, the Salvation Army's information is there. We do have movers that will help you, that we recommend. So it's a lot of good resources under our grief support tab on our website. And so I do admonish you to take a look at it. I got some more stuff that I got to put on there, but definitely for sure anything maybe that you need, if you don't see it, please feel free to give us a call here in the office and ask for myself, Tyra. I will give that information to you. Our phone number here is 773-424-3151. Again, our phone number here is 773-424-3151. Our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. Again, the website here is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. griefcorner.com. It is, again, my pleasure to be with you all. Thank you for taking a moment to stop down your scrolling on your timeline, or just flat out just coming to Southwest's page to be a part of the Grief Corner, to see what type of information is here for you. I'm going to, the next session, have a special guest with me. So I'll just surprise you with that. And so it's going to be somebody who is going to be just like myself, a helping hand, a listening ear, and a place where you can get advice, because that's what the Grief Corner is about. So God bless you. Continue to be safe. Please stay warm, and make sure that you wear your mask and wash your hands and do your due diligence and start preparing for this winter and getting your homes in order as far as the things that you need, if you have not been thinking about that as well. And I do, of course, admonish those to get your flu shots, because the healthcare providers are able to distinguish, one of the things that helps them is to distinguish regular flu symptoms from COVID symptoms if you have had your flu shot. This is coming directly from our practicing nurses who are on our advisory board. Again, this is information coming directly from the advisory board of nurses who are practicing nurses, who are here to assist us, provide information, and to give out to you all. We do have additional videos. We did do a wellness platform, a wellness and COVID platform, to give you all information to prepare you for this winter. That was a Zoom. We do have those recordings. Again, they should be up on the website, but they will be available to you. I can send them. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. God bless you. God keep you. And thank you so much. Have a good day.